something there. Thank you.
It's recording.
Okay, so then just for the record keeping purposes, it's 10 June. It's the Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust Climate Action and Accounting Working Group, the Standards Working Group. We were busy. I'm sharing my screen. I'm just sharing the whole thing. We were busy working on the publication of our ontology. What screen are you seeing from me at the moment?
Your GitHub screen.
Okay, that's what I want you to see. Okay, so you'll remember we have got the four ontologies: the infocom, the claim, the impact, and the anthropogenic impact. Then we have a content negotiation test that I just want to show some progress, and then we've got the W3ID where that does the namespace, you know, where we will get our permanent address from. So thanks, Alex. During the week, Alex, pull requests. Alex, I looked at the changes you required. So I've already made some of those changes. I don't think we have to like sit here online and go through them. Maybe if there's one or two that you want to discuss, we can do so.
Nah, nothing that I wanted to discuss. It was just, I think it was
Okay. So I mean maybe we can just quickly visit those later on. What I just so maybe we can just go to one of them. Let's go to the you see there are my changes, Alex. So what each one of them now has is that we've got the L file that contains the XML format, L format for the ontology. And then in those files, we had an example section that had named individuals in them. And that file, I just moved out into something called example. Let me just see if this is the correct one.
I think you're on a different
Oh, you
branch
see,
at the moment.
oh,
You're on main.
so these you'll see here. There's a section that starts here with an example instances. In all cases, not in all cases. In most cases, I moved them out into an example, separate example L file, so that the main file will end here, and that contains just the classes and the object properties, and not any examples. So it's nice and clean. And where I didn't do that, Alex reminded me to do that. So Alex, I did go through that. So that's the one thing. And then the other thing, this was the bad example. As you say, we are on main. Let's just go on that other branch. Yeah, so in other words, now there's an example, a separate L file with the example, like this one. And the other thing I did is we are going to use the w3id.org address. So I already changed the reference in this ontology so that it's ready for that address. And then the other thing is we have a script now, and it's that Python script there that converts the L into Turtle, JSON LD, and HTML. and those are the main formats that it's used, and then you install the requirements for the script by running this script. And then there's a message in the end that says you must source some V environment thing. It's a Python 3 thing. And then you run this script. You just /that and the name of the L file. And then it creates these things. And then we just move the HTML format. We move into a web folder just like this, so that when we do the content negotiation, it is going to get the HTML from there. And then, okay, so all of them look like this now. So, or they are in the process of becoming like that. And then the content negotiation, that already works. You'll see now sorry, that's not 8080. I'm running our content address testing. So what we expect now is that since we're calling this from a browser, it is going to redirect to the HTML. And there it does. And this page here, you'll see, is hosted on GitHub. So GitHub has this feature called GitHub Pages, where they render the raw HTML, which this is, in other words, this is that file that sits in that web folder. Now in the IO, this is that file, but with GitHub Pages activated, it actually lets that thing render as a web page. So if a person calls our ontology from a browser, he or she gets this page. But if they request something else, then they get either the JSON or the turtle format. So that seems to be working. And I haven't done it yet, but the procedure is that we will, let me just go to that part. We will implement a configuration file like this. One like like this. We will implement a configuration file like this in each directory in the W3ID repo, and then we'll submit a pull request. And this is then what does the content negotiation. And this, yeah, so this seemed to work. It took a while, but this whole thing seems to work. Just to say that in this repo here, there is a Docker file and a run and a stop script, so you build the Docker and then just run it with a script. It runs on 8080 on your local host, and then you can test the content negotiation. So all that seems to be in place. So basically, as far as that goes, we are basically done. The only thing is we are going to change that now to w3id.org, that instead of Perl. Then in terms of content, there's nothing that we're going to change. And yeah, so basically that's where we are.
Okay, that looks and sounds good, Christian.
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, so I really don't have any sort of more sort of things to do. I think it's now just uh, merging those pull requests, and maybe there's one or two more coming. But I mean, we've basically got the whole procedure now. Maybe so in terms of the publication work, that is that. Let me just where I
Before
mean where
we officially publish it, Christian, I would just like to go through
yes.
the everything, like especially the way the OWL files are displayed in HTML, because it's a nice format. I just want to go through there and make sure we seeing it in
Yeah.
that format. If there's not something that comes to mind that we have missed, um, or maybe connected wrongly in the OWL file or something like that. So I just want to
Yeah, no, I
take.
also think, thanks. And so in other words, I think the steps are that we just get the publications so that, let's say, I almost want to say that internally, or, that we can run our own local, we can run this thing locally, um, for every one of our uh, ontologies, and just check it out. Or maybe Alex, I can just we can just, I'm sure it's going to even work like, I haven't, like, that it will even work. It will even work like this. If I've activated for the info card, I can't remember if I know it's a 404. So, but I mean, we can check them out semi-manually. But yeah, so I think we are close now. We must just then, okay, do the quality control, and then think, okay, when when we are happy with the quality control, what is the process then in terms of making it known, and communicating about it. Then then another process kicks in around that. Almost a launch type of process. And then there's the education component we've also spoken about.
I think it should be published in the LFDT like blog. Okay, there's a monthly report, a weekly report, and I think we should announce it there and advertise that a course follows. Now, my question is, once we publish, what do we expect to happen?
I think at first not much. I think what would be nice for me about the publications, then you can start already using this in established systems. So I mean, then we can start using it, and then other people, I think there's going to be a process through which it becomes usable, and I mean, I'm going to use it for one, but I
So is
mean,
it there?
other
Is
people are
it there
also
now?
going to. Excuse me?
Is it so? Is it there? Looking at what you just showed on the GitHub site, is it there now? Because you're talking about next steps, maybe a use case. So we're gonna use it as a use case. Although I was gonna ask the group here, is it too early to use it as a use case and actual implementation?
Mm,
I noticed you got the owl file out there. Um, we're gonna start using it or plugging it into what we're designing.
yes.
Is it too early for that? Because then it will have a use case then,
Yes. No,
example.
no, I think, Jeff, once we have that permanent URL where
Mhm.
W3ID / IRO, where that thing lives, then I think you can use it in I mean you can use it in implementation. Then it has a permanent it resolves permanently on that address. You can use it, you can reference it in your semantic you know in any ontology or vocabulary that you use, and it will return the right format, whatever, if it has to return JSON LD or whatever. So once we've got well, if it compiles, it means it is valid L, and
Mhm.
then it's valid L and it lives on a permanent address. So that is the definition of that. You can use it in production when those criteria are met.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna start next week. There's different components of this solution we're putting together, this digital twin, but one of the things that we're looking at right now is the data architecture. So the data architecture, the low level, the data that pours in and that's computed and stored, and what goes on the blockchain, what goes out in the database, is all going to be somewhat driven around that our ontology that we use. And so the initial piece, of course, is to populate it. Where does it all fit into our ontology? From there, then we'll figure out what the smart contracts will do with it. But we're gonna start going after it as soon as we
Yeah.
can, like a week from now
Yeah,
or
no, I
less.
think a week from now, I mean, on the Git, let me just, oh,
Yeah,
I'm not
I've been out
sharing
on
it.
the GitHub.
Yeah, so it's on the
But
GitHub, it's there. And I mean, in a week, I hope to have that all the fixes done in a week. So
okay.
I'm not sure how long W3ID take to review a pull request. But
No,
anyway,
that's
so
fine. I guess that's a question to you then. So as we do this, so for example, we're having to make a decision whether or not we want to have an operational model running, most likely written in Python. And so if we do that, we'll need that ontology obviously to show that piece of it. So um, we have actual generic IoT devices that will send data in representing emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, and so we want to fill that ontology up with all these things through our documentation, our design documentation, but then at the same time we're mulling around whether or not we do a running example of it so that we can have a Python program run and show how that data is coming in, how it's being stored visually. We're
in
debating that piece.
what format are you storing? Are you storing it as a in a relational database type of format, or are you storing it in a graph database or in a
No, it's go. So
NoSQL?
imagine a lot of emissions data coming in from different sources. And so one of the reasons why digital twin around climate action should be a blockchain is the immutability of the data. So you're getting all this data that's pouring in now. As you guys all know, in a blockchain, you can't store all the data on a blockchain. The gas fees would crush you, even if it would hurt even if it's a permissioned blockchain where there's no
Yeah.
technically a fee. You drive
Mm.
down performance. Blockchains aren't intended to do that. So
Yes.
the question is, what block of data? We have data compression algorithms. Which one are the ones that would be audited that we have to store on the blockchain? So so we're using both. So we're looking at Cosmos as a database, which is common for blockchain solutions. So all the data will be stored out there. That structure will look different. That data structure will look different than, of course, the blockchain, whereas the data is being put out there as transactions. And so the ontology does fit in there. We're just trying to figure out where the pieces fit of the data
Yes.
that comes across. The ontology is our base, really. When you look at it, it's helping define our data architecture. But then there's these things that take place outside of it. Why we have to use a blockchain, how blockchain handles it, how smart contracts review the data and the payloads that come in. So again, you're getting hundreds of data points, and out of that, which data points do you store that need to be audited, and then because that audit data then goes on and starts generating emissions tokens and things like that. So not to get too complex into it, but the ontology defines that relationship of our data model.
Yes. So yeah, I think it's
I know
going
that's
to.
a whole mouthful, but that's where we're just assembling all this stuff.
Now, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that, how you do that, and then we'll also obviously learn in the process. But I think we've got the intention is that we provide a fundamental ontology. In other words, that on top of that, some, let's say, case specific or activity specific ontologies may fit, but it's clear where they fit in. If you just, I mean, we say the thing you do is an activity, but there may be another ontology that describes the characteristics of that activity in much more detail, but at least it embeds in the right place. Um, which makes it then, let's say if you take a broader view, you understand where that fits in. And it's nice, the sort of the design of the semantic web that you can very easily extend. You can build a detailed data model on a fundamental ontology. It's actually made to be done like that. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be good to see that in practice. So in other words,
Oh no, go ahead. Just on that topic. So on next my calendar, I think it's next Monday. No, it's next Tuesday. There's a global company called Simwell that creates digital twins for all different industries. And so they have a digital twin, excuse me, for supply chains, but it has nothing to do with decarbonization. So I have a meeting next week to set this up with their chief operating officer actually wants to talk to me about this presentation because he knows how big Linux is. And so in that, so the meeting next week is to say, what do we want to see from Simwell? And I guess to you guys is, because they'll even do a 2-hour presentation, which might be too much. And we're also going to, David Boswell and Tom, I think you know those two, are going to determine whether or not we do this on our meetup. If we do it on our meetup, we could have hundreds of people on this thing. So they're looking to see how to do this. But in that presentation, do you want us to draw out whether or not they have a data ontology for their systems that they put in?
I think it would be quite interesting. It would
Or
be
even if
quite
they have
interesting
one.
to see if they have and what it is, and I mean, and yeah, it would be interesting to see because you don't have to have it on. I mean, the interesting thing is you have, even as if you have a schema, a relational database schema, it implies a certain ontology, although it is not explicitly sort of expressed in an ontology language. Every schema, in a certain sense, implies an ontology. It says there are things in the world or there are things in this domain of the world that we are interested in, and they have these names, they belong to these classes, they have these properties. So in a certain sense, any categorization of data is a schema, is an ontology, but it would be interesting to understand if they explicitly define that ontology and what the
Okay.
elements what the elements are that they define in there.
Because I've gotten some guidance from Linux to say on this thing. See, I don't even know if their solutions use a blockchain, but then in essence, we're going to be pulling information from them. And the whole, obviously, you guys are obviously, you'll see the invite whenever that comes out. But the Linux Foundation's asked me to the work that we're doing. I'm talking about the digital twin is to keep that kind of under our hat, so that our Linux partners, all 3,500, get the first whack at and take a look at it, to see if it's even useful. So this is going to be a draw from Simwell. And so in there, it was what kind of data ontology do you use? You have one, and pull that piece out. Just let me know that we're going to go after and see if they have one, or if they just say no, we're putting in a database. Oh, okay, you got a data architecture at a modeling level, very basic, but okay, we're going to draw that out of them. So, but in the meantime, we're, like I was saying before, we're using the implementation for this digital twin to drive our data architecture, because it's very useful. I'm throwing this all at the mentee. No, here, get this. We have a mentee.
Will throw it all at AI.
Which he'll be attending the next one of these meetings.
Yeah.
I was going to have three, because three people are very interested in it, or three people have been very useful on it, but I can't manage three. I can manage one. So I went through a lot of resumes, as Alfonso knows. So
I have a question, Christian and Alex. Once we have this completed and published, would we have a way of tracking who is using, who has used the ontology?
I was going to ask the same question too.
That I'm not sure if we can get stats from GitHub pages. I'm not sure, Alfonso. I think that's a good question, because on GitHub, because the actual final endpoint to which W3ID will redirect will be GitHub. It will either be raw content for the JSON LD and the TTL, or GitHub pages for the HTML, which will display now nicely. But whether one can actually get statistics from GitHub to see how many downloads there were for that page, I'm not sure. That's something we can research.
I thought you,
But
no, I must be
okay.
wrong. I wrote some Python code a year ago, a bunch of Python code, and it had a lot of user interface code in it, and it's out on GitHub, it's public. And somewhere out there, it showed how many pull requests there were. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was a stat I could see on the page that said how many pull requests were there.
Okay, well, that's one approach, the approach of keeping track, if it is possible, of the pull request and solve the issues of privacy, okay, whatever they are. A complement approach could be the option to belong to a community. Okay? To have a community, of users.
Yes.
Okay. And so you can, of course, you can always, branch, copy, and do whatever you want, and be registered or not through GitHub. But the other option is to create a community, okay? Community of users that are identified, that willingly tell what application they're using it for. And we can then use that community of users as an interchange of experiences. And whether we do it through the GitHub page or through any other communication channel,
Use
Discord
Discord.
or whatever. Yes, yes, but that's the channel. The idea that I would like to transmit is it is good to have a community. Okay. Open source cannot exist without communities.
Yes.
Okay, so let's create our community to keep track of who's doing what and where and when. I've seen another example, which is probably older than Discord, but I'm helping another group that is called the System Innovation Network. Okay. It's a large community, not as large as LFDT or Linux, but it's 30,000 members all over the world. And they have an app as simple as that. Now, an app that keeps track of who's doing what, when, and where. Okay, so that's another tool. You know, the automatic tool of GitHub should look at it. The community with all the channels that exist, and the old apps approach. But the idea is we have something important. It might be of interest for many people. It's good to have them organized or to give them the option to be organized as a community.
Is the Linux Foundation the forum to host that community? I mean, do we?
No, I'm feeling things, and I might be totally wrong. But you see, since Hyperledger changed the branding, which I understand why, understand what for. Okay, I've seen, for instance, these special interest groups die. Okay, the regional chapters as Latin America, people go on their own. They didn't care so much for the change of branding. But I think the problem is precisely not taking enough care of the communities. Okay. This fact of saying, we are open source, you're welcome to do whatever you want. It's great. Okay. But we used to have more support from Hyperledger when we were Hyperledger. Okay. The fact of moving from Confluence to GitHub, that created a lot of difficulties. With the mentorship program, things that happen that shouldn't have happened. Now everything has to be transformed from the Hyperledger repo to the new LFVT repo. So to answer your question, yes, Linux Foundation has the idea of what has to be done. They're not open source resources that I know of for creating communities. There must be. It's basically my ignorance that's stopping me from knowing them. Okay. But I think it's something we have to do on our own. Okay, and be clear that building, maintaining this community is one of the next steps, together with training and support of applications. So we need to have broadcasting, training, networking, and support of applications. That would keep the ontologies alive.
And I think combined with, let's say, impactful implementations, but I mean that's what the community, that's what the, you know, if there's an implementation that shows that, oh, it actually works, it makes things easy, it makes things work, it adds value.
And that could be also a way to monetize, okay? Which is something that if you use the Linux Foundation support, you cannot monetize on your own. Linux does it.
Yeah.
Okay? LFDT has the membership approach. And the System Innovation Network does it also. They have subscriptions. So if you become interested, you pay for a subscription.
Where do you host it? Do you host it on LinkedIn? The committee?
Well, yes, the System Innovation Network, SCI network, is hosted in LinkedIn. You know, they have their own page. They have their own meetings. You know, in LinkedIn, I think it's up to 55K members.
Yeah.
And with the app that they have on the site, it's about 30K.
Do they have any revenue that comes in for the hosting and okay, for their own hosting on the
Well,
site?
there's a subscription. I don't know how many people pay the subscription,
okay.
so I don't have the numbers. Okay, I'm helping them create the Mexico hub as a country.
So it's actually an app. It's not just a design document.
Excuse me.
So what they have is more than just a document. They have the app running.
They have a site. Okay, they have a site. They have a whole program of education. Okay, they have a series of courses, events, publications. They're beginning now on the ecosystem for innovation. You know, and basically what they do is they train, network, and support applications of system innovation, which is a bit different than system thinking. In the end, the system.
I think if we go, you know, that's a transition in a certain sense. You know, we've come from a sort of a long, almost conceptual phase. We've you know gone into the sort of the details of the implementation, you know, of the execution of that. But if we are going to go into this community phase, I think we must also think of you know of the you know of who leads in that thing. I think I'm not the person to whenever they make me the chairperson of something, it ends up with having 4 members. So
quite good.
Well,
I've enjoyed the ride. I've enjoyed the ride.
Same with me.
Which I think helps you to get things done. I mean, I think what we've got, maybe it took some time, but we've got something that's you know, that we can feel proud of. But I think we must think about recruiting the right person for that phase. And interesting you know, so I think it's going to be it is going to be crucial to also in terms of, let's say, of the you know, of the core personnel or the core you know driving individuals who there's a specific skill set and personality, and so that's better than that. You know, I'm fairly confident that that's not me. But you know, I think we have to think about that change of gears, and and also in terms of people. And maybe there's someone that we want to onboard now, or you sort of recruit or interest now that has a stronger role to play in that phase.
So, Alfonso, maybe you're involved in this somewhat. Is how does this work where, let's say, this ontology, there's value in it. We don't know, maybe we don't know how much, but there's value to be discovered in there, monetary value. So who holds this thing today? For example, if Accenture went out somehow and got a hold of the OWL and started consulting off of it, is that allowed? And now they're really monetizing something that we did. Have anybody had any conversations around the fact that it's out on GitHub, it's open? They dig around and look for stuff and say, hey, look what somebody has out from LFDT community. We can take this, and the marketing folks say, yeah, let's go out to our customers and start marketing this, and not even marketing it, but just, Accenture makes, in the other firms, because when I worked at BP, we use them. They come in with ideas and they charge a lot of money just for an idea and say, look at this, and we can consult and show how we can put your applications in this, and we can unify your data block, and they make millions of dollars off of this. Can they grab this and just say, here we go, this is now, we can make a ton, we have nothing? Is that allowed?
Well, it's Apache
it
too.
is.
It is Apache too. Yeah. So I mean,
It is. Basically, what Linux says is you can have projects and products. So the project is open source, as Christian is saying, with such and such a license. Okay. So the open source is free, but the product that you build on top of that project, that is owned by the developer of the project, and that can be monetized, commercialized by the creator of the product. So they make that distinction very clearly, and whomever owns the product has to give the credit, okay, for the project. But they're two separate things. Okay.
Okay, I see. Okay. Okay.
And that's, for instance, the case of IBM with Hyperledger. IBM developed Fabric, contributed Fabric to Hyperledger. In fact, that was one of the main contributors to make Hyperledger a reality. And once it was within Linux, IBM continued with the products that used Fabric for specific industries, okay? Food and Walmart and all that, and the defunct trade with Maersk, okay, and so many others. And in fact, Kaleido, which is another member of Hyperledger, now LFDT. Kaleido is a bunch of very bright guys that develop Fabric, and they know the problems of using fabrics because they were responsible for those problems. So what they did, which is extremely bright, and I applaud them, is that they created a blockchain as a service that solves for you all the problems of Fabric implementation. And it's an extremely successful product. Kaleido, blockchain as a service. And it's fine, it's accepted by IBM, it's accepted by Linux. No, they're a member of LFDT. They're also members of the Open Wallet and a lot of the other foundations within Linux. And Sofia Lopez is a great CEO, a great lady. I like her very much. So that's the way Accenture or any of the other LFDT members, okay, and that's what they are members for. Okay, because that gives them a first view of the projects that are being developed.
Well, like the design documents we're putting together to create a digital twin for carbon accounting, it's generic in its its entry point, but then there's a block in there that says using open source, you would use Fabric for this, Bezier for this, Indy for this, and the ownership of that then belongs to who?
If you're building it as a project, it is open source.
But if
Now,
you have a
if you create the product
Hmm.
of digital twins for carbon accounting as a service,
yeah,
that
that's
is yours.
even
Mhm.
though the user can build that thing for herself by pulling everything from GitHub and compiling it, they're not going to do it. They are just going to use your thing, because 90% of people, even those people that will actually be able to do it, read all the documentation, compile everything, debug everything. They don't. I mean, they have other things to do. So I think the service component, or just the convenience of presenting something. What we can think of, for example, is that on different blockchain networks we offer this as an oracle or something, where combining, where we combine this. You can even combine it with a sort of an AI that
Mhm.
codes data into this and passes it back to you. And although I'm sure someone else can go and build that exact same thing using, let's say, two open source components, maybe Olama and our ontology, it's not to say that they're going to do it.
But you're coming back to our AYA. Okay.
Yeah.
What to me it's clear what we could do as a product, okay, is our ontologies can be offered as a knowledge graph service for retrieval augmented generation. Okay. So that people
Yes.
can explore the universe of standards, okay, with our ontologies as a knowledge graph. So we have to pair it with AI in a formal way. And that is a product that uses the project of the ontologies that we did as open source, but provides a service that is commercially viable and relevant.
Yes. And
so,
I think we should think about, I mean, let's say we are a week or two away from being publication ready. That we then enter into that phase where we have to really sort of stop and think what we're going to do next. And I think the community obviously is one part, but obviously you've mentioned this before, that is there something that we can almost package this thing in and use it and combine it with that we offer this core, of which this is the core technology, but that we offer in a commercial way, or that we interest a partner. I mean, I think that those are things that we think that we can have our own discussions on,
yes.
and see where that leads us, maybe, and then we can even say, okay, we're not going to do it in this forum. We are going to we are going to have our own. We can have sort of an alliance of the willing, if I must say that, and then
Yes.
see what opportunities there is offered by this open source technology that can be implemented in another context.
Yes, we can build up a product with AI, and this knowledge graph for RAG exploration of standards for climate action and accounting. Okay, it's something that is needed. I mean, the digital twin could be one client.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why I was
Yeah.
thinking also about the communities, because communities are potential clients. But it's not only
because
building the
Kaleido
community, it's building the product.
is interested in the digital twins still about building that out. And I didn't think of the fact that, yeah, they do a lot of deliveries as a service. I'm not sure where they're coming from, but they're also a big partner in Linux. So,
They're members.
I'm one of those 3,500 members, that float across, you've been on the Linux Foundation new page where you see all the members floating by, the Microsofts, the Googles, the Meta,
They're
consulting
members,
firms.
and members can pay for the membership,
Yeah,
or they can contribute the sum.
yeah, some pay a lot.
And the contribution is not, it's not welfare or, goodwill. The contribution of the software is the acceptance by Linux Foundation of that software. And so it becomes a standard by the weight of.
You say acceptance of the what?
The acceptance of the code. So members
Oh,
pay for the subscription. The members contribute code.
Oh, I see.
As we have been contributing our IA,
Right.
our work within the foundation has been a contribution from a community.
Yeah.
Commercial
I've
members
seen
develop their projects, and they contribute the code. They give the code as open to Linux. That's what IBM did with Fabric.
Yeah, tomorrow I've got a thing with my calendar. Hyperledger Fabric -X is a presentation by IBM. I'm not sure what the -X is, but okay. I've seen the money side of the Linux thing, the amount of money they bring in a year. It's big.
It is. It is
It's
big.
big.
And when you see
It's
how big it
big.
is, you can also feel how stingy they are, for instance, with mentees and mentors. Okay.
Why they're stingy?
Oh, come on. How much are they giving for the mentees?
No, like nothing.
$500 a month for halftime? Come on.
Yeah, they're giving nothing. Oh, I see what you're saying. I was thinking of it the other way around. Yeah, they're bringing this massive amount of money, and then yeah, maybe I said it wrong, and then they're dribbling stuff to the mentees. The two don't. Isn't it over $1 billion a year?
I don't know.
I think it's actually higher than $1 billion. It's enormous what they bring in.
Yes.
That's why you're right.
And they have the right. They have the right. They earn it, and they provide an extremely relevant and good service. I mean,
Right.
the servers of internet run on
Oh, sure.
Linux.
All of the world, corporate ones too. Are Linux. It's in your phones, it's in your TV, it's in your car, it's in everything. Your
Okay,
Tesla runs on Linux.
I think we should think, Christian, about community, but also as our commercial product. And Jeff, my suggestion is, whatever you do as a project for the digital twin, think of the pieces that you're building. And those pieces of code, that is your contribution, okay, to Linux.
Yeah,
And
so
it should be recognized. Okay.
So we're doing the architecture, we're doing the reference architecture and then the technical architecture, and that's where the mentees come in. They'll learn how to do this.
Okay.
And so out of that is that question about, do we then build a product on top of that? We can, do we want to?
It might not be the time. I don't know.
Or Kaleido would probably like to, they've said, but Yeah, so that's some of our thought around it, because also in the same time about special interest groups, bundled in there is, I'm talking with Tomas and David Boswell about the climate accounting group, CA2 SIG, and the supply chain one of rebranding it as something else. Maybe not even a special interest group. Give it some new kind of function.
Well, let's be honest. That SIG is dead.
Mhm.
We are the Robinson Crusoe in a
Yeah.
remote island. This working group. No,
Hmm.
we are the Robinson Crusoes of that SIG. We are the no, we're the survivals.
And that's why even on the Simwell one, we're not going to go through the SIG anymore. We're going to do it through Meetup. The LFTD Meetup group. I attend a lot of those, and I don't know who runs those. Do you know?
Oh, well, it's nice if you live in a city that has a nice community. The meetups are great for meeting in person. Okay, I began that with Hyperledger Merida. We're now 400, and but it doesn't go.
Oh, I see
doesn't
what you're
go
saying. Yeah,
anywhere.
I don't know how this works, and that's where I was. Those two are looking at it, because like this thing tomorrow with Hyperledger Fabric with IBM, it's run under Meetup. Now, and they somehow the LFTT thing goes out to all these worldwide cities, Sydney, Mexico City, the US cities, and everybody gets invited to this mass community thing. It's these turn into global meetings. And I don't know how those things function. I know how Meetup functions. I don't know how that functions, but it's always that same LFTT moniker, but then it's under Meetup, but it's all these places around the planet, and it gets a lot of hundreds of thousands of people on these things.
They're called virtual meetups, okay? And they're run by David with the help of Tomasz, okay? Rai is also there. There's a new lady, Jessica, okay? And basically it's a meeting, okay, where all the meetups are invited. Bye, Alex.
So will this ontology at some point be broadcast out as a what would you call it? Not a meetup group, but will there be a sessions on our ontology?
I think that's something that we must. It's part of the launch idea. It's something that we must. Once we have everything sort of running on the technical side, I think that's something we can say. Okay, let's prepare for such a launch, and maybe also when we've got a little bit of an idea of what the community looks like and what the road ahead looks like, that can be a valuable sort of initiative in that, especially once we know what we want to do, because you do have to know what you're going to say there, except look at this thing we have. You do have to sort of have a little bit of a plan on how to take, if someone is interested, how to take that forward. But typically that is something that I think we can go to back to the Linux Foundation and say, let's organize something around this. I also have to run.
Yeah.
Okay, we're on the hour anyway. So yeah, thanks. So just this week, I'm gonna try to fix this those last technical things. So hopefully, next week we can just submit to W3ID, and then hopefully everything just runs. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for doing
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Best, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.